no one except Jesus. As they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus instructed them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." May God add his blessing to this reading and hearing of his word. Amen. It wasn't that long ago that we already went through this particular passage. Matthew chapter 17, the Transfiguration, right before the beginning of Lent, that last Sunday before it started. And this Sunday, in our journey through the various spheres that Jesus is releasing us from, we use this passage of fear, of the unexplainable. How could the disciples explain anything of what happened? Jesus taking them up this mountainside. It probably had been with Jesus up many mountains beforehand. These specific three had probably been with Jesus alone many times as well. But here they are at this specific spot, and this specific occurrence happens. Jesus is transfigured. There's a pre-showing or a preview of Jesus in his glory. Made available to the disciples, these specific three, on this day. His face shining white, his clothes as bright as the light. He appears in glory. And then these other two, Moses and Elijah, appear with him, conversing with him. A cloud envelops them all. And this voice speaking out, "This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him." Whoa! What kind of explanation can be given to all that? The disciples were utterly terrified, as the scriptures say. They fell down to the ground, not knowing what to do with it, how to handle this important stimulus, what would come through. Where is there any hope for a good way of explaining the events that are happening that's going right in front of them? Turn it back on. Is it on now? There we go. And in the midst of their fear, Jesus comes to them. And he touches them. He'd have to use both hands or one hand on all three. But he gives them his touch. It gives them some sense of grounding. To have been in the presence of the Almighty, to have heard apparently his voice, to have seen Jesus in his preview of his glory, and to behold two of the fathers of their faith, known to have been long dead, Moses and Elijah, they were there as well. How can that be explained? It doesn't matter. What matters is that they were allowed to experience this amazing event, this transfiguration, this opportunity where Jesus is speaking with these two pillars of their faith as well. They got to experience it. Is there a reason to explain it? No. Jesus doesn't see any words that are recorded to explain what happened. Only to say to the disciples, "Don't tell anyone about what you've seen here until I've been raised from the dead." Now, how do you explain that as well? Wait, you're going to die? When's this going to happen, Lord? What's the issue here? But according to the scriptures, even that was just let to lie. No further explanations given. In life, we like to have explanations for why things happen or why things are going on around us. We recently bought a gas grill. I was so happy that it came with a set of explanations, the instruction booklet. If I were to try to put it together, oh man, who knows what would happen. I did so in my younger days. I used to work for a company that I built a lot of those type of gas grills. I got very good at doing those. But these new gas grills have a different design, a new way of having things organized. I was lost, even following the directions. In fact, Amy and I were looking at the instructions together to try to make sense of what was going on. Thankfully, it came together because we kept going over the same set of instructions several times to understand it more fully. And now we've got something that works. When it comes to preparing for our son's education, we want to have a great deal of explanation. Many of you know that Jonathan does a lot of his schooling online, and so his teacher sends us information through email. Sometimes the teacher does a quite good job of giving us clear explanations and instructions. Other times, there's a gap somewhere that we have to look a little closer at. How are we supposed to get from this area to this area? It seems like we're supposed to make a guess somewhere. And sometimes we have to email in to the teacher, could you give us a little further clarity on this? And she'll walk us through that. What seems clear to one person turns out being not clear to another person. We want to know what the set of instructions are. We want to have clarity. We want to know what's given to us to do and how to do it right. That same job I told you about directly after college, I'd worked there for about 4 or 5 years. And near the end of my time, I got to be real proficient at, of course, not only building all these different grills and desks and tables and whatnot, but I got very proficient at knowing how to interact with various members of the staff of the store, how to make things work, how to enable the processes that took place from one department to another. It was enlightening to me and enabling to me to have a clear understanding about what I could do, how I could do it, how I could get from one place of the sales floor to another part of the sales company. I was able to just make things go smoothly, working with everyone else. I finally understood things. I finally got it figured out. It no longer was unexplainable to me. It made sense. When Jonathan was born, the common thread is, how come when a kid comes you don't get an instruction booklet? Because every kid probably needs one. And while there are many things that are common for all children, every child is so unique and different. Each child definitely needs an instruction book so that parents can figure out how best to respond to a particular child. This child likes to be rubbed, rocked this way. This child likes this type of song. No, we have to figure it out on our own, don't we? It takes trial and error. It takes late nights, sleepless nights. It takes early morning feedings. It takes all the shebang that goes with raising a child, caring for a child. Yeah, if there were parenting books, we did go through those. I read a book on how to be a good dad. I still need to go through that because I didn't learn it the first 3 times. I need to go through it and go over what it takes to learn how to be a better dad as I continue growing up. Same is true with my marriage. You know, there's no instructor book when it comes to being a marriage. Well, I guess you can call Scripture a good instructor book because much of what God has to say about a Christian marriage is described in the book here, in the Bible. There are lots of other helps out there for married people. How to be a better husband or a better wife, how to be good spouses to each other, how to work together and trust in each other and rely upon each other. But those are just general knowledge giving out. Each of us are individuals, and each of us needs an instruction book for ourselves. How do we relate with our significant other? How does that person relate with me? How can we work best together? More of the countless trial and error, making mistakes, getting over it, working harder, putting more into it. While it's all unexplainable, it's still worth the effort to do. And the good thing that comes in relationships is that when you get to be in good relationships together, you can develop a closeness with one another that allows there to be touch. It may be nothing more than a hand on your shoulder, or a hug, a sharing of a kiss. But the physical touch, human contact, is so important. We learn that so readily when Jonathan was born. Not long after he was born, he was taken away that day and placed in the NICU and was there for a week. And we couldn't touch him for the longest time. It seemed like such a terrible time. But near the end of that week, he was finally come out of the need for the NICU care, and we could hold him and rock him, and just express our love to him that way. It certainly dispelled a lot of the fears that we had to hold our son, to care for him and love him, and to feel his love back to us. Amy tells a story of how he wouldn't just be content with him stroking her. He wouldn't be content with her stroking him with his finger. He would just often lean into her and want more of his mom. He needed that touch from the ones who loved him the most. Jesus touches us as well. He touches us spiritually. He touches us mentally. He touches us physically in the lives of others around us. Remember, we are all made in the image of God. We are all bearers of God to each other and to the world. It's not fair to say that we're all Jesus to each other, but we all can be manifestations of the holy, the divine to each other, because we're all made in His image. And as we interact together, we can touch each other. A handshake, a hug, a pat on the back. Is there much that is unexplainable even within the life of this congregation? Yeah, there is. I've heard some stories. And I've heard how there have been friends in this community and in this congregation that have helped people get through difficult situations. Thank God that even though there are unexplainable parts of life, that God is bigger than all of them. God transcends them, and God gives us each other to help each other through it. We are not to be doing life by ourselves. We're supposed to be doing life with each other. Looking to each other for strength, encouragement, providing help, providing strength and assistance. I have seen it in the life of this congregation, and I delight in God's love shared amongst you. Thank you for teaching me a little bit more about reaching out. Many of you also know I've shared often that I'm an introvert. I'm not someone who does reach out. I'm getting better at that. Being married to an extrovert, I'm getting a whole lot better at doing so, but I still have a ways to go. And I thank you for the images, the pictures, the sound bites that I have from amongst this community of faith to help me understand a little better about reaching out and welcoming others and just engaging with people around me. Unexplainable happens, but because God is bigger, God will carry us through it. There's no reason to fear. There's no reason to fear. God is bigger, God is greater, mightier than it all. And as we trust in Him and as we put our lives in His care, it may be unexplainable. We just have to experience it and trust that God will take us through it. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.